Rebuilding trust with God doesn't mean going back to who you were before the disappointment, because that version of you is gone. We're ever evolving, we're ever forming in our relationship with the Lord. And as people, I think there's a part of it that's okay to not be so religious about things. There's a part of us that even when we're talking about like the old has died and the new has come, when we're talking about we received salvation, we were a new creation then, but we're being made new every single day. And sometimes it takes walking through a Psalm 88 to get to where we're going. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Christian Wellness for Weary Women. We are here to talk all about healing from burnout, healing from fatigue, healing from being way too stressed out, which led to all the physical symptoms that you might have endured or are enduring, and you're ready to heal your body naturally. That's what we do here. I'm Cassie Hutton, your host. And today we're going to talk about what it looks like not to trust God. But before I get into that, I always want to tell you guys about how you can work with me, what it looks like to work with me, and what I offer. So I offer, as a functional wellness coach, I offer functional wellness testing, and it's called HTMA testing. That's short for hair tissue mineral analysis. And when you join my program, we work together to come up with a truly customized plan for your bio-individual needs as a person and what you're going through and what your symptoms are and what actually comes back on your test results. And let me tell you guys, this test is not a diagnostic test. So it's not going to diagnose you with gastritis. It's not going to diagnose you with hyperthyroid or hypothyroid. It's not going to diagnose you with high cortisol. It's not going to give you these exact metrics that we sometimes want to know. But what it does give us is the foundations for what has actually caused all of those diagnoses that come in at the end of the day. And so the beauty of this test is that it doesn't matter what your diagnosis is, what symptoms you have. This test tells us why you have those symptoms, and it's the upstream of what's going down, what's happening with your symptoms, right? So for example, a lot of clients that come to me have autoimmune disease. Okay, well, why do you have autoimmune disease? Like your body just suddenly decided it was going to, have this major immune response? No, it's been under lots of stress. It's completely deficient in minerals. It's completely deficient in the things that it needs in order to convert hormones, in order to convert, thyroid hormones, to convert things that it needs. It needs like raw material, which is our minerals. It is foundational to our gut health. It's foundational to fighting off inflammation and to produce stomach acid. And so a lot of times, a lot of inflammation starts with those foundational things. So if you get depleted of stomach acid, then there's definitely going to be some inflammation going on in the gut, because then food goes into the stomach and it can't be broken down. It either sits there too long, you've got this inflamed gut, so you've got this irritation going on, and then the food goes in and it irritates the gut even more. So we might even talk about things when you work with me of just what types of foods, how you can start cooking foods, very simple fixes, how you might start just cooking foods in order to soothe the gut, what types of foods you can actually cook down to make a lot softer in order to soothe the gut. And then on top of that, what are the foundational minerals that you need in order to start rebuilding stomach acid so that it can break down your foods, so that your body can then begin to absorb all of those foods so that it can then support your overall health and rebuild that immune system, rebuild low cellular energy, rebuild the things that you're depleted in. And we start repaying back that debt. I use this analogy with a lot of my clients that when you have come to a place where your health is bad, it's very much like a bank account. You have overpaid, overextended, and you have depleted your account. And so now it's in the negative. You have burned through all of these minerals that you were born with and that you should be replenishing constantly, right? You're working, so you should be getting a paycheck all the time. So every time you feed yourself, this would be like your paycheck coming in. And so if you are not feeding yourself enough, that's a huge red flag there. But even if you are feeding yourself enough, like me, this was my story. Like I had never dieted. I always ate well. In fact, I'm a foodie. Like I love to load my plate up. I was definitely always the one in high school. Like my other friends would like order a salad and then they'd just eat a couple of bites of it. And I was over there like pigging out. Like I did not put myself on a diet. I never skimped. I never skimped when it came to eating my plate, okay? I was going to order the steak, the mashed potatoes, and I still do. I still eat my full plate. I'm going to finish my plate. I am not one to let myself go hungry. So my account was not in debt because of that. My account became indebted, however you want to say it, depleted, because I lived a very stressful life. I never learned, number one, it comes from childhood. You pick up these things as a child and you learn to react certain ways to certain situations. You know, I had a father that abandoned me. I had a stepfather that was addicted to opioids and I never felt comfortable around him. Our relationship was very volatile. And so these things contributed to me reacting certain ways to certain stressors. And then life happens and other stressors happen. And then you go through major life changes and you have a hard time adapting. And so there was about 3 years of my life where I was literally stuck in a fight or flight state where I constantly was being triggered by things and I would have a full body reaction where I did not know how to bring myself down. I stayed in a constant state of what's going to happen today, what's somebody going to say today, what other triggers are going to come today, who's going to say what today for a good solid almost a year. And so coming down from that, I had trained my body to stay in that place and stay tight and constricted and reactive. And so I had to teach my body to come out of that. But then I hit full on burnout when I had my fourth baby and found myself crying all the time and found myself having very irregular cycles with volatile emotions. So PMS on crack, what they call PMDD, dysphoria. So I wasn't diagnosed with this, but I'm self-diagnosing and telling you that I had these dysphoria thoughts. And so with that is when we're going to kind of talk about what happened in my faith and my struggle in my faith whenever that happened. And so a lot of times when you become depleted in your body and you experience this void of emotions, you become muted in your own emotions and your own body and within your own family and with the relationships that you have because you no longer can handle the stress. You need someone to carry you and take care of you, but yet you're still having to carry everyone and take care of everyone else because that's all you've ever done. And there needs to be this massive shift come so that you can begin to heal, so that you can begin to take care of yourself. And when it takes a while for those things to get put into place, things get worse before they get better. But this also falls into the faith aspect of your life and your relationship with the Lord and what it means to like become hard-hearted and what it looks like to really question everything and what it means when it looks like, you know, I have a hard time sitting down and focusing because my mind's always racing. We're going to get into all of those things today. And we also address this in my 9-month Rooted and Restored Wellness Program. If you work with me, all the things that we just talked about, you can go to join.cassiehutton.com to read more about all of that, look at all the things and all the questions that you have. And if you have any more questions, then you can always book a free root cause clarity call with me and jump on that so that we can talk about what your goals are, what you want on your healing journey, and so that I can help you and assure you that you're making the right decision. Because I've been where you're at. I have been on that side of the fence where nothing is going right. I have no energy left for the day. I'm crying all the time. I'm crying by noon. I'm calling my husband to ask him to get home because I just need some help. And so I've been where you're at. And it was hard to ask for help. And also when you're in burnout, it's very hard to see that you actually do have help. All that you see is the negative. It's a very black and white situation because your body does not have the resources to get you out of that place and to regulate your body, regulate your nervous system, regulate your thoughts, this even comes down to like body temperature, right? All of a sudden you're freezing cold all the time, or all of a sudden you're burning hot all the time. This all comes down to the body not being able to regulate itself because it doesn't have the resources, okay? So go to join.cassiehutton.com if you want to know more about that. And on the spiritual side of things, you get my Made Whole Inner Healing course, and we work through all of that together. And so the two go hand in hand. You're not going to be able to heal your physical health without also addressing the emotional and spiritual underlying stressors going on. And the two work hand in hand, and they go beautifully together. And that's why I absolutely love HTMA testing, because it reveals how you're handling stress and all the stress factors in your life. Okay, I'm going to show you this. I have notes today. I do not like to work off of notes, but I made notes today. I'm going to see how it goes. But if I'm looking down and pausing, trying to read something and figure out what's going on and where I'm at in all of this, then forgive me. But hopefully the editor can edit all of those little things out. So today we're talking about what it looks like to trust God when you feel like He's abandoned you. And that's exactly what I felt like whenever I hit burnout. It took me kind of some months into it before I really felt like deep, deep anger towards the Lord. And it felt like, basically, I'll explain it like this. It felt like a best friend who maybe knew that your husband was cheating on you and she chose not to tell you. That's really what it felt like. It felt like, Lord, you saw this coming. You knew this was coming. And the Bible tells me, if this is your word, the Bible tells me that I'm called to be a good mother. How can I be a good mother if I don't have the energy to do it? How can I be a good mother if I'm bleeding all the time? You're the one that gave me this. Like, I'm just being real and raw and honest with you. This is exactly the way that I would talk to the Lord. These are the things that I would tell Him, and my words were much more colorful. I'll just put it that way. Because when dysphoria would hit right before another 2-week cycle would come, it was very hard to stop. This wasn't something that you could just take control over your mind and, take captive the thoughts and put on the mind of Christ, because it's literally your body does not have the resources to stop what's coming. And so I dealt with a lot of emotional struggles and emotional turmoil, a lot of racing things. And so whenever that dysphoria would hit just a couple of days before my cycle, it would look like deep-seated anger. It would look like everything was coming against me. I would talk so negatively to myself. I would hate myself. I hated my husband. I hated everything around me. I hated everything going on. And then could not stop the cursing that would go on in my head. And this sounds like demons whispering to you, or this sounds like, schizophrenia. And I do believe that it could have turned into schizophrenic type things, and that this is along the lines of what was going on in my body is similar to what leads to schizophrenia, or this is what those who have been diagnosed with schizophrenia actually have physically going on in their body. It's actually it has a lot to do with copper, and your body not having the literal resources that it needs to be able to control the central nervous system taking over into that fight or flight, freeze mode, whatever one you fall into. And so the cussing would not stop. It would just go on and on and on. And no, it wasn't like something or someone whispering. It literally was my body's way of dealing with everything that was going on, because it had no resources to pull from anymore. On top of that, I was breastfeeding. I had just come out of postpartum, so my body didn't have the resources to heal. My body didn't have the resources to make the milk production that I needed for my baby. We did make it through, thank God, because I found someone to work with me, and we did HTMA testing together. And potassium, coconut water, was a huge one for me. If you're a mama and you're breastfeeding and you're having a really hard time nursing, try coconut water. Get that potassium in there, sodium and potassium, because it's hydration. That's what causes the body to be able to pump in water into the cells and out of the cells. Is you have to have sodium and you have to have potassium. You don't just need to drink a bunch of water. That's a lie. You have to have mineral-rich water, minerals rich with salt and potassium. That's what causes water to get in and out of the cells, hydration to get in and out of the cells. If you have a lot of swelling going on, it's because you have a sodium to potassium imbalance going on. And so that was something that really helped me, is beginning to drink coconut water and salting all of my foods really well. And so I got that portion, because breast milk is made up of, 70 or 80% water, not to mention that our whole body needs that water and things going on. So that's just a little side note. If you're breastfeeding and you're having a hard time producing milk, mainly yes, I've always had lower milk production compared to other mamas, but the biggest thing for me was like, it took 10 minutes for like my milk to drop. So she was like extremely fussy, then pulling off and coming back on and pulling off and coming back on. And then another thing that would help is just taking a deep breath. So taking a deep breath calms the central nervous system so that you're lowering cortisol and allowing oxytocin to do its job. Back on track, what it means to find a way to trust God again after you feel like He has abandoned you. And so that's a little bit of my story. And it took me a good many years to kind of get over. I mean, I'm like embarrassed to tell you guys some of the things that I said and did towards God specifically, like shaking my fist at Him and telling Him that like, this is so unfair. I can't believe you made a woman's body this way. I mean, you think about the woman with the issue of blood. How did she not get so angry at God for creating her that way? Like you made me this way. What are you doing with this? What kind of good God would put a woman through this? Okay, this is like now where my thoughts would go to. My thoughts understood the story of the woman with the issue of blood but now here I was, experiencing it in a whole new light, mad at God for this woman. I'm mad at God. I remember telling my husband one night, I was like, I don't know if I'm so angry because I'm crying for myself or if I'm literally grieving the past generations of all women who have gone through this and haven't had any help. Can you imagine not having any help, not knowing how to have any answers? No modern medical system, no resources like the internet to help you find someone who knows how to help you. Like you're just stuck in this bleeding place or this overwhelmed place or this experiencing all of the female issues that go on. We have so many issues that arise in a female body over a man's body, because our endocrine system is directly linked to our metabolism. And because our metabolism is completely jacked up because of the foods that we eat nowadays, women experience way more issues than men because their endocrine system is not directly linked to their metabolism. This is why it's so incredibly important for women to be supported in eating healthy. We're not just on this fad over here of wanting to eat healthy or to look better than someone else. No, it's literally tied to if I'm going to have a very horrible period this month or not, if I'm going to be extremely crazy this month or not, if I'm going to be extremely sad or not. And in fact, it has to do with 3 months down the road because our cellular turnover turns over every 3 months in our body. So what you did 3 months ago can be affecting year cycle this month. That's a lot. And I am being much more real and honest with you guys in this episode. And because it's still a walk of faith, I'm still in where I'm taking baby steps in learning to trust the Lord again with the things that that I used to fully be able to give my heart over to Him and dive deep into the things that I felt were hard. I could go there with the Lord and be like, okay, let's tackle this thing together. But now I'm like, well, I did that then and it got me this. So I don't want to do that again. Lord, I'm not sure. I honestly don't. It honestly is a place where I'm like, I can't trust you with that, Lord. The Bible says that I can. The word says that I can, but my heart says that I can't. And I want to assure you that it's okay to be there. It's okay to be in relationship and still not quite be in a place of intimacy anymore. And it's okay to want that back and not know how to get it back. And we're going to discuss a few things. And I'm going to read and point out a chapter in the Bible to you where there is no apology. There is no, but God, you're still good at the end of it all. Okay? And so let me go to my notes. Okay? The first point that I want to make is basically what I just said. It's okay to not trust God when you feel like He has let you down and abandoned you. And so what does it look like in order to gain trust with God again? I think the first thing that you have to do is just to become aware of it and to like let your guard down around it and to let your kind of your tent pegs, right, be uplifted and be able to accept that you're not fully in a place where you can trust God anymore, that you're able to voice it out loud and you're able to kind of like let that thing off of your chest because you feel like it's bad to say that. You feel like it's wrong to say that. You've been taught that you can trust God with anything. You can fully trust God with your heart. You can open up to Him and do anything. And I mean, we read it in the Bible over and over, but God, you're so good. God, you've never abandoned me or forsaken me. You are all the things, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. We read it over and over and over again in the Bible. But here you have found yourself in a place where you don't trust Him and those words don't ring true to you. And so, first of all, being able to admit it is going to lift something huge off of you so that you can move forward and begin to take baby steps back into a place of trusting the Lord. And so naming it plainly without any spiritual fluff on it whatsoever, and just the truth of what you can't trust the Lord with, why you can't trust the Lord anymore, and allowing yourself to maybe even not have a plan of what it's going to look like moving forward to gain trust with the Lord again. And so the next thing that I want to talk about is that Psalm 88 that I have pulled up for us. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll let you go and read Psalm 88 to yourself. But I'm going to pull out a couple of things. And I loved how it started out. I think I'll go back to that at the end. But here's what it says. Psalm 88, verse 5. And I'm going to kind of start in the middle of verse 5. It says, I am forgotten, cut off from your care. You have thrust me down to the lowest pit, into the darkest depths. Your anger lies heavy on me. Wave after wave engulfs me. Verse 14. Oh Lord, why do you reject me? Why do you turn your face away from me? Verse 18. You have taken away my companions and loved ones. Only darkness remains. So the very first part of Psalm 88 starts with this. O Lord God of my salvation, I have cried out to you day and night. And so this is a person who's begging God to hear their prayers, and he remembers. He says, God, you are the God of my salvation, but yet you have forgotten me. You've cut me off from your care. You have rejected me. You've turned your face away from me. You have taken away everyone that I know and I love. And so here they are in this deep place of pain. And yet the best way to heal in a deep place of pain is to have people around you that can help you get back. And even those are stripped away. That's very hard. That's exactly what I felt like my husband and I walked through. When we went through our deepest, darkest pain, it was like, now I don't even have the people around me that were supposed to be there to support me. They're the ones attacking me too. And so that was extremely hard. And I mean, studies show that if you have good support around you, that you heal a lot faster. You're able to get over your grief a lot faster and deal with your grief a lot better because their emotions come behind you to regulate you and to bond with you and to create that deep relationship that you need. And so when that's not there, it feels like you're really on sinking sand. But this is what I think grounded me through all of my feelings of abandonment from the Lord is what he says in this first verse. Oh Lord God of my salvation. Because I would constantly go back to the fact that I had a real experience with Jesus. He really set me free from a lot of heartache and pain over the abortion that I had. He really set me free from a lot of PTSD from that abortion. He really encountered me in a very dramatic and profound way. And it was very, very real. And in an instant, he changed my perspective and had me admit the truth of my sins and called me to repent. And yet at the same time, pointing out this horrible thing I had done, I felt so much love from it. And so I constantly went back to that. But God, you are the God of my salvation. Like Jesus, and that was a different thing too. Jesus is the one that I recognize as my Savior. But God, on the other hand, that's harder for me to deal with because He's God the Father, right? And so dealing with the Father aspect of things, that God, this was your vision and plan through all of it. Let me think about this. I don't see animals going through a monthly cycle. I don't see these other mammals going through a monthly cycle. Why us going through this monthly cycle? Tell me that. Tell me why this had to be this way. That answer hasn't come, And so it's part of like, you just kind of have to move on to accept it at some point where you move past that. That was at least something that I specifically, maybe there's another area, yours might not be specifically over that thing, but it kind of was one of those things where you're like, whenever you start kind of getting into maybe some conspiracy theories and you start questioning everything, that was one of the things I started questioning. Why this, God? Why this? Because obviously it was a trigger every single 2 weeks for many, many months after my 4th child and my 5th child. And so this was, every time this came, it became a very negative thing for months and months on end. And so my mind began to be trained to think of the way our body is made as bad. And it would tell me that everything was bad. And so it was digging myself out of that hole. Number one, replenishing my body so that I could regulate those emotions when they came up, sitting with those emotions when they came up, and being okay with, I don't like this, God, but I'm not the creator. And I don't know why you did this, but I will trust that there is a purpose, that you are using what I'm going through to help other people, which is exactly what I'm doing now. But I love that, going back to Psalm 88, is a prayer that ends in darkness. There is no hope in it. I mean, really, there is no hope. There is no relief in sight. It even says that in the Bible here. And so it has no praise in it, no resolution, but yet it's still in the Bible. And then our unresolved grief is still sacred. It's still sacred. It's sacred to us and it's sacred to God. Even if you have a hard time trusting that, right? That's one of those head and heart things that I've talked about in the last 2 episodes, that our head and our heart have to come into agreement. Your head believes one thing. You've been told all these things, but it's when your heart you have to work through those emotional unresolved things before you really can understand that your grief is sacred and that God does not require emotional closure before He allows us to speak, before He allows us to try to move back into this with Him and into this relationship. Like if your trust has been broken with an actual person, especially like, let's say your husband or a best friend or your mom or a brother or sibling, your trust has been broken with them, a lot of times it does go unresolved. But if it's like, let's say it's a spouse and there's been broken trust, but you want to try to rebuild this thing, like it's going to take steps for you to allow yourself to trust them again. They're going to have to take drastic measures on the other end to prove their trust, right? To prove that you can trust them again as well. And so Psalm 88 tells us that we don't have to feel better, we don't have to trust again, and we don't have to make peace with what happens. And God's still listening. He is still listening, even if we don't trust it, right? So it's okay to let your faith be unfinished, so to speak, to not have everything resolved, to come to God with the messy middle, and to even come with Him with an untrusting heart, and to just try, right? Because again, the relationship is still there. Just the intimacy is not, because the trust factor is gone. And that would be very hard to do if you are in a relationship, an intimate relationship with a spouse, and you've lost trust with them. It would be very hard in the bedroom to be intimate again, because that thing, at least for a woman, that it's a mind battle, right? There's got to be full on trust. There's got to be full on openness for a woman to actually open up and be able to receive her man. And so it's okay to also, I love this, because I think so many times we feel like we have to like receive something from the Word and from the Lord, but it's also okay to go into prayer or to go into your Bible and not actually extract a lesson from it. It's okay. We don't have to like receive something from it and have this life-altering, life-changing experience every time. And it's okay to just read it and not have some crazy lesson that came to us, okay? And so it's about being able to sit in that relationship without intimacy and being okay with it while you build trust back, because the intimacy will come back. Okay, so the last point that I have for us is that trust may never return. Trust may never return in the same form, okay? It's probably going to look different, but I think that accepting this is also a part of maturity. I think that it's God's design for us to grow and mature, and that being able to accept that, number one, proves that you're coming out of churchianity, okay? That you're allowing your mind to escape the tent pegs that have been put on you to strap you down into that generational cyclical thinking that's actually very unhealthy and causes a lot of religious thoughts. It causes way too much pressure to be put on you, and it's just not healthy for anyone. So rebuilding trust with God doesn't mean going back to who you were before the disappointment, because that version of you is gone, right? The old, we're ever evolving, we're ever forming in our relationship with the Lord and as people. And so I think there's a part of it that's okay to not be so religious about things. There's a part of us that it's okay to say, yeah, even when we're talking about like the old has died and the new has come, when we're talking about we received salvation and we were a new creation then, but we're being made new every single day. We're being made new every single day. And sometimes it takes walking through a Psalm 88 to get to where we're going. So what broke your trust changed you, and expecting childlike trust after adult loss is unrealistic and it's actually cruel. Think about that. Because it's an unrealistic expectation. It's an unjust weights and balance. You're expecting too much of yourself. You're expecting too much of this relationship that you've lost trust in. God wouldn't expect you to put your full trust back into someone on earth that has broken your trust. So why would he expect you to do that with him? Biblical faith is not blind trust. It's continued presence in the absence of safety. So it's never blind trust. We're not just blindly trusting the Lord going forward because now we've been hurt and now we've got to rebuild this trust again. So, is blind faith a great thing? Yeah, it absolutely is. In fact, we had a discussion with our kids about it last night. Like, what area of your life is God calling you to trust him and step out in these areas of faith that you don't have the answers to, but you believe that God's calling you to do this thing, and that's a lot of times blind faith, right? But there's other areas that we can rebuild our faith and our trust in different ways. There might be areas where you do still fully trust God, but then there's other areas that you don't. And so it's okay to not blindly trust him and move forward. So we're going to redefine trust as consent, not confidence. That's one way to move forward in this last point that I'm making about never returning, that faith doesn't necessarily return in the same form. So we're going to redefine trust as consent, not confidence. So we're I don't want to say that like you're in control of where you're allowing God into your heart, because you are in control. Like you have and God's given you that as a gift too, right? You have this personal autonomy. And so when that trust has been broken, there's going to be areas where you have to kind of like give God consent into those areas again. Okay. And he's going to treat that gently. We all know that. We all know that the Lord doesn't force himself onto us or into our lives. And so when you're allowing God in those areas where you're taking those small steps and allowing God back into your life, he needs your consent first. And so here's areas like where you may not trust God, but then we're going to list some areas that you might allow him into. So you may not trust God with outcomes or timing or protection or expectations. Protection, I think, is a big one for me. And that may be even an area that like I'm dealing with personal struggles from an earthly father and applying it to God the Father. And so this may be an area where God's like rewiring my brain to what he's teaching me to believe about fathers in general. But you may be able to allow conversation, honesty, limited vulnerability, showing up as you are, and that you can trust that that is still relationship, even though it may not feel like intimacy, especially if you've had a very intimate relationship with the Lord in the past. And so those are kind of the small steps. Just start with conversations with the Lord. being honest in how you feel, that you can't trust the Lord anymore, that this is XYZ and this is why I can't. And then allowing that limited vulnerability, all right? So don't feel like you just have to be all or nothing, and showing up as you are, being very authentic with the Lord, which is what he asks of us anyways, because he already knows that that's going on. And so to wrap this up, we're going to recap everything that we just talked about, and I'm going to really encourage you to go back and read Psalm 88 for yourself and notice how it starts off, what they're going through, and recognize that there is no, but God, you're good, but God, I still trust you. There is just an open, honest conversation about all the things that this person is going through and how they have lost trust with the Lord. So if you're walking out of this episode, here's exactly what I want to give you. First, you're going to stop forcing trust that isn't there. You're going to say the truth out loud, even if it's messy. Second, you're going to give yourself permission to stay in relationship without resolution. You don't have to have an answer. Okay? This is what it looks like to have a calm central nervous system and to know that you have plenty of resources, is that you're okay with the gray areas. I wrote an email not long ago about this, about being okay with the void, not having that answer, and that in the beginning, that's all that there was a void. And so, in fact, it is very biblical to be in the void sometimes, and it's okay to be there without answers. We hate it as human beings. We don't like it, but it's necessary. And read Psalm 88 as your template. Don't fix it. Don't make some sort of meaning out of it. Don't feel like you have to catch the lesson from it. Just be honest. And then lastly, you're going to choose one small way to engage that does not overwhelm your nervous system. Okay? This is huge. What doesn't overwhelm you? What feels peaceful to you? What feels bite-sized to you? What feels like, I can do this? That might be a one-line prayer to the Lord in the morning or before you go to bed. It may even just be like a heart of gratitude. That's kind of where I started, was like, okay, I'm just going to start to be thankful for certain things, because I've been in such a negative place where I saw everything is so bad, so negative. Everything was against me. I had no help. I was very bitter about being a woman compared to a man, the freedom that men have compared to a stay-at-home mom, things like that. And so I just started I started shifting my mindset to be thankful over things. And so for you, it might be silence. It could be journaling. It could be, again, that one honest sentence to God, or even stepping back from a season without quitting entirely, which is probably what a lot of us need to do. Just step back for a season, okay? Step back, quit trying to force things, and allow yourself that grace period to be okay without trusting God. And so the last few thoughts here says, you don't rebuild trust by pressuring yourself to believe again. You rebuild it by staying honest and taking small, livable steps forward, and that's enough for now. Okay? So I'm going to pray us out. I haven't said a prayer on the podcast in quite some time, and so I'm going to pray us out, and I'm going to bless you with this. Let me know if it spoke to you. Let me know if you've gone through seasons where you've not been able to trust God, how you got your trust back. I would love to know that, because that will help other people. Drop it in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. You can always email me, contact@CassieHutton.com, and I would love to share it. You can also join over in the Facebook group, Christian Wellness for Weary Women. I think it's Facebook groups /Cassie Hutton Wellness if you're going to go straight to it. Otherwise, you can just search for Christian Wellness for Weary Women. So anyways, Happy New Year, first of all. And this episode will be coming out on New Year's. So I bless you with all of that. And I want you to be able to step into the new year, being able to at least know that you're working on trusting God again. And that if you are ready and willing to work on your health and regain the brightness back, the joy back, and your energy back, then please reach out to me. Go to join.CassieHutton.com. So thank you, Jesus, for today. God, I thank you for the women who are listening, even the men that might be listening, Lord, that you are allowing us to open our hearts again. And God, I pray that you would also be, if we think about this in the light of an earthly relationship, that when we feel like our trust has been broken and we've been abandoned, God, that as we step forward and start making those small steps to open our heart up again, to trust you again, God, I just pray that you would show up in those areas and help us to see that you are showing up too, that you are hearing our prayers and hearing our cries and giving us a reason to trust you again. And I pray that you would open our eyes to see those little things, to hear your voice, to see your presence, and God, to know that you haven't actually abandoned us or forsaken us. And God, that you are turning everything that we've walked through into something good that we can use for your purpose, because we still have a heart that wants to see people be won over into the kingdom of heaven. We still have a heart that says, I know you, Jesus, and I know that you saved me, and I am so thankful for that. But this season has been hard, and I'm ready to trust you again. So Lord, I thank you for that. And I thank you for this new year. And I pray that everyone has a blessed one, and I'll see you on the next podcast.